games wide open. That this would be the motto of Paris 2024, that this would happen at all, astonishing. When you know the story of how this came to be, especially if you know what these men know.
Are you in this picture?
Oh yeah, I always wondered if I was in it and I never came close to it. I know I was around here. I know he is dead for sure, and I believe he's dead as well.
That's Arthur de Nouveau, a survivor of the hell that happened here at the Bataclan. Olivier Leplot was also there. He's alive, but not unscathed.
I have a tattoo with a metal fist,
Keep on rocking.
Yeah, keep on rocking. You can see a bandage.
From the look of the Band-Aid, it still sometimes bleeds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it won't heal completely, I believe, but yeah, moving on and keep on working.
It was November 2015, a terror attack at the Bataclan concert hall in Paris.
Breaking news out of Paris and what, at least at this moment, looks to be a city under terror attack.
90 people were killed there. One of several attacks that horrible night that all told killed 130. And it came just months after a winter of 2015 attack that terrorized Paris over 3 days.
Dramatic new footage of the moment the Charlie Hebdo terrorists staged a gun battle with police.
The gunmen, all affiliated with ISIS. The 17 dead, killed in several places, including the offices of the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo and a Jewish grocery store. So, 2015 was one of the worst years in memory for Paris. And yet, 2015 is the year Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, bid for the Olympics.
Well, Paris is joining the race to host the 2024 Summer Olympic Games.
The city of Paris is on the starting blocks once again, with the 2024 Summer Olympics clearly in its sights.
To decide to invite the world to Paris in the year of such loss and vulnerability was an act of supreme confidence in the resilience of a city.
Paris as host city of the Games of the 33rd Olympiad 2024.
And this is an act of real bravery for a survivor. That's Arthur de Nouveau on Bastille Day carrying the torch right to the Bataclan, that place that haunts, joining those in the quiet crowd, including the father of a young man killed in the attack.
Our memories.
We connected with him before he carried the torch, and he said the nightmare of what happened at the Bataclan is too terrible for him to explain to his young daughter, but carrying the torch would change the story. Paris hosting the Olympics changes the city's story entirely.
I'm curious if you have any sort of awareness of the moment you heard that Paris had been awarded the Games.
I'm very clear about learning it, I guess, in the next few minutes anyway, because it was all over the media, and saying to myself, yes. I mean, we've not been put away from the rest of the world. It's still possible for Paris to host something that big, which means that there is a way out of this. So to me, that was immediately a message of hope.
Imagine the power of that moment after the horror of this one. 9:40 p.m. on November the 3rd, 2015. Eagles of death metal are on stage at the Bataclan. 3 gunmen enter the concert hall. Moments before, Arthur had taken a picture with someone from the opening band. Then he was getting a beer. That's when the gunfire started.
I removed my earplugs, and the sound really sounded like gunshots. And that's where I understood, and I think everyone understood at the same moment, because I was pushed through the floor, by the crowd movement. I did not lie down by myself. I was just pushed on people with people on top of me.
Arthur was at floor level.
Between the wall and the safety barriers at the front was only a narrow passage. So I crawled down there, but a lot of people were standing and I think took bullets for me, which is, still very weird to say after all these years, because you're going to a concert and it turns into something of a war zone.
Olivier Laplot was upstairs on the balcony.
My wife told me to go on the ground, to get down on the ground, and so we crawled to the emergency exits and went to one of the changing rooms. We stayed in that changing room for about 2 hours before being rescued by the police.
That wasn't the end of it. They still had to get out.
Unfortunately, we had to cross the pit, with all the images you can imagine. They asked us to look on the ceiling, just to
Not look at the bodies, just look up?
Look at the bodies. Yeah, you can't, because you have to watch your steps, of course. So, of course, as you can imagine, terrible images in my mind.
Survivors cope with the images of that night very differently. Some want them to go away.
For example, that could be me. Could be. And that's a bit tough to say.
For Arthur, he found himself looking and looking again at these scenes in particular of people escaping to see if he could find himself, to make sure it was real in a way.
I remember when I went into the streets, I looked back inside and there was a pile of people near the door. It's something very strange because, nowadays you see a lot of awful things on Twitter, on the internet, and there's still something very different about seeing a lifeless body and crawling on top of people who are either dead or playing dead. This will remain for life, I guess.
Memories as etched as the names of the dead on the monuments and the commemorative plaques that line the streets outside the Bataclan. These two men didn't know each other before that night, but they work together now for a survivors and family group called Life in Paris, named in English intentionally to signal to the world that Paris still lives. The Olympics, too, carry the same sentiment.
There's still life in Paris, there's still something to be done here. Don't quit on us. And of course, that was a perfect alignment. And I remember, I think I saw Anne Hidalgo a few months later at the commemorations, and her saying, yeah, the Olympics are for you. You'll be there, and I'll make sure you have a role in it. And that was very important.
Do you feel in your heart that this is a good thing for Paris to be doing?
We have to move on. We can't let terrorists or terrorism win. I think it's a good thing, especially in those dark times, to keep on doing what we love to do. Those names, I know them because I know their family, their friends.
Olivier will also have a role. He's a sports journalist, will be covering the games. He's nervous about crowds, is conscious of security, but says he and all of Paris will steel themselves for this moment. They have to, and they have to trust. Interesting thing about Paris, the city has a very old Latin saying, fluctuat nec mercitur, effectively tossed by the waves, but not sunk. In the wake of those 2015 attacks, those words were suddenly everywhere in Paris. There was pride in that defiance then, just as there is enormous pride in the bold move to hold these games now. Paris lives.